Hi everyone. In this actual last video, I thought the last one would be the last, but I couldn't make a recording too long or else I can't upload it to YouTube. So this is the truly last video 5B out of 5 to cover advanced queries in Microsoft Access. So we're going to finish numbers 13 through 16 here that we didn't do last time and give you practice for the exam. So let's start with the calculated field here. We want to calculate the difference between the current salary and the maximum salary of each regional manager. Name the calculated field salary difference. Show last name salary, max salary, and salary difference. So remember in class when I told you guys that it's not a good idea to store the attribute order total in an orders entity. That's because order total can be easily calculated from the line items table based on the price of each item and the quantity. Similar thing that we're doing here. We don't need to store the difference between, basically it's salary room or salary cap. You could call it salary room for each of the employees because we can calculate it in a logical view or a query. So let's start by creating a new query. Create. Query design. There are a couple ways to do this. Let's start typing it in by hand. So first of all, which fields are going to have the data we need? Salary, that comes from the employee table, and maximum salary and regional manager. So position and max salary will both come from the positions table. How about location table? Anything about that? Nope, don't see anything about that. I think that's good. Okay, so let's start with what we want to show. The last name, salary, maximum salary, and then this new field that we're going to call salary difference. So let's talk about how to create that. So first of all, it says to call this calculated field salary difference. So I'm going to come down here in the field, and instead of selecting one, I'm just going to type in the name of the one that I want to create. Salary difference, colon. After the colon, I wonder if I can stretch this out. It'll probably stretch it out here in a minute. So I want to reference two field names. And since I'm using multiple field names here in the same field, I'm going to use these square braces for each of the field names. And it's going to be equal to the maximum salary. And then we're going to subtract from that the existing salary. And again, these are field names. Max salary comes from the position table. Salary comes from the employee table. Tab. I wish I could stretch this out so you can see the whole thing. I know there's a way and I just can't figure it out. Anyway, there we go. Salary difference, colon, maximum salary minus salary. It's going to go right here. So there's one thing I'm forgetting. It says calculate the difference between this for each regional manager. But I don't need to show that they're a regional manager. So let me make sure I get their position title, deselect show, and set the criteria equal to regional manager. Okay, let's go ahead and calculate this now. Alright, let's check and see if it worked out. Is a field called salary difference? Yes, it is. Salary difference. Rodriguez, his or her salary is 150. The max allowed is 250, so that he or she has 100,000 worth of room. White has 75,000 worth of room. So that was a pretty simple and straightforward query. Let me go back to the design view and show you a few other options you have. This one was easy because we're just adding or subtracting, or if you're multiplying or dividing, you can just simply say this field minus that field, or you can do an equation. You can plug in parentheses and say this field divided by that field, or this field plus that one divided by this one. However, you have a whole lot of other tools available to you if you want to create some more advanced calculated fields. This builder tool right here gives you access. So enter the expression to define the calculated query field. So there's the name of the field, just like we entered in salary difference down there. And if you click on that link, Access Help will pop up and explain to you what I just did and give you the details of how that works, but I'm not going to go into that now. And then you type a colon, and then you reference the field names with square braces, just like I barely did. And in addition to these normal expressions with pluses, things like that, you have access to a whole lot of other functions right in here. So if I click on built-in functions under functions, there's a lot of stuff a lot of you won't recognize. I click on math, and I have access to all these math functions here. Round, sine, square root, tangent, cosine, absolute value. So you can use all of these functions in your calculated field. Lots of useful tools. Obviously we can't go through all of them in class. Anyway, we could have used this just as well to say, whoops, excuse me, salary. Well, you know what? I changed my mind. Let's not get into this example right now for time's sake. So query 13 is done. Let's Control S and save it. It's query 13. There we go. Close it out. Let's move on to 14. I'm going to scroll over here. Okay, calculate the sum of salary difference and salary for all positions that have the word manager in them at all cities. Also, calculate the difference between the newly calculated summed field and the maximum salary. Show position, title, city, and all calculated fields. Okay, so let's break this down. Let's create a new query, query design. Let's double check. Looks like we're going to need employee and position, obviously. And looks like we need city as well. So let's add location back in. Close. Okay, but we're going to be showing position title, location city, and then each of the calculated fields. Okay. So if I want to first calculate the sum of the salary difference field we just created and salary, not sure why we want to do that, but let's do it. First I'm going to have to get the salary difference field back in here. So let's create that one again. Salary difference, capitalize properly, colon, open close square brace. That's going to equal the maximum salary minus salary. Okay. And salary, if we want to include that, let's actually we don't need to bring the salary field in. I was thinking we would, but we can still just refer to it. So it's almost like we're just adding salary back in a second time. In the example, in the text document I gave you, I'm pretty sure in the solutions document it included salary, like this is a field. However, we don't really have to do that. We can simply refer to it. So let's call this, well, let's call it whatever we want. I think in the document we called it Bob, but this is just the name of the field that's going to be up top. This is simply the salary field field that we just created over here. Salary different, excuse me, plus the salary field over again. Salary. Okay. Also, I noticed it says for all positions that have the word manager in them, which means there's multiple types of managers. Let's take a quick look at the data in the position table. Yes, there's a manager title and a regional manager title, and we want both. So let's say there's actually 12 different types of managers, and we don't know the names of all types of managers that are in the database. We can use a special symbol to give us everything that has the keyword manager. So down here in criteria, under position title, then I want any employee whose position title is not equal to, but like, open, close, double quote, use what's called a wildcard character, the star key, the word manager. So let's take a quick look at this. I've said show me everyone who's like, not equal to, and then a space, then open double quote, and then I use the star key that says give me anything that ends in the word manager. I don't care what's in front of it, there can be any text in front of it. However, I haven't used a star key after the R because I'm saying that whatever you return must end in the word manager with nothing after that R, and then close double quote. So let's try this one out. Run. There we go. All managers, regional managers, in the database. Before I go back though, let's take a quick look at that field Bob that we created just a moment ago. So first of all, salary difference. If you remember, that's the difference between maximum salary and their actual salary. So it's the amount of salary space they have to give these people raises before they bump up against the max salary for that position. Bob, what is Bob essentially then? Well, we added their salary back in, which gives us, think about it, this is just the maximum salary once again. So for all intents and purposes, I could have just pulled up maximum salary if that's what I really wanted, but the purpose of this exercise was to show you that you can use calculated fields in other calculated fields as many levels deep as you want to. So essentially Bob is just max salary. Alright, let's go and complete that last one. So it says calculate, where we are, also calculate the difference between the newly calculated summed field Bob and max salary. So the difference between, and we already said Bob is max salary, right? So what should that give us? Difference between the newly calculated field and max salary should be essentially 0. So let's just go back and do that so you can see one more time that you can use a calculated field inside of another calculated field. We'll call this one Jane. Like in your example in the document, this is going to be Bob minus maximum salary. There we go. We want to show it. Run the query and scroll in so you can see that a bit. There we go, Jane 0. So again, query 14 just shows you calculated fields inside of other calculated fields. Let's save that one. Query 14, close it out. Okay, let's create a new query. Query design. Looks like we're going to need the average and minimum salary. Those, okay, actually in this case minimum salary is not referring to the minimum salary found here in the position table. We just need, what we're trying to do is use a minimum function to find, regardless of what the minimum allowed salary is for this position, let's look at all the existing employees and look at their actual salaries, and let's create a function to tell us which one is the smallest out of those actual salaries. So we do need to display by job position though, so I actually think we are going to need the position table here. Let's drag that back in. We're going to show the position title, and then we're going to have two calculated fields. So instead of using this builder that I mentioned before, we have this button here called the totals button. If you click that, it adds, notice, a new field here called total. And it's added this let me close that, this keyword here called group by. Let me just show you all the different automatic formulas we can use. Sum, average, min, max, count, standard deviation, variance, first, last, expression. What group by does, let me show you what group by does by first showing you what it looks like without it. If we just run this query, what are we going to get? Well, it's just going to give us a list of all position titles. But why is it repeating them? Let's go back here. We've said that we want to include the employee table. Therefore, even though we haven't selected something, let's select one. If we were to include last name, whoops, notice it gives us the last name now and each of their position titles. Let's go back and take last name off now. Delete. Basically, when you say you use both tables in the query and you've joined them, instead of just showing you each position title listed once in the positions table, because you've tied it to this table, it's going to show you a row for every entry in the employees table. Well, that's not what we want. Let's take a look at this again. It says we want the average and minimum salary of all positions. We don't want to repeatedly show each position multiple times. So, add totals back in again. Group by is a way of saying, okay, even though you're going to have multiple rows from the employee table that are part of this query, unless they want to include some other field from the employee table, like last name, we just simply want to group all positions by position title, or we want to group all rows by position title, which means if I click run, it only gives me each title listed once now, even though I do still have that employees table listed. Okay, make sure to ask me in class if that doesn't make sense. All right, so now we're going to need to calculate two fields. Both of them are based on what field though? Well, average salary and minimum salary are both based on employee salary. And we don't need any other field to come up with the average. So instead of creating a new field name and then saying, you know, salary plus salary plus salary, we could add them. Well, no. What we do is we use this totals row and we simply say give us the average of all salaries. Okay, and then in this one, let's bring salary in another time, and this time let's say give us the minimum of all salaries. Okay, let's try that out. Run. There we go. Position title, average of salary, min of salary. And if you wanted to, we're not going to worry about this. You could actually change these names. Well, but we won't worry about that for now. For now, this works. Each title, the average, and the minimum found among current employees. Okay, save this query. Query 15, close it out. We are down to the last query. All right, create a crosstab query to display the average salary of all location cities by position title. Sort by city, then by title. Okay, a crosstab query is a way of taking attributes from two different tables, and instead of displaying each attribute across the top as columns, we can make a matrix. And we can put one of the attribute values down the columns, the other attribute value, down the rows, the other attribute values across the columns. Then we can sort the data in there. All right, so let's create a new query and explain how to do this. Okay, so what data do we need? Average salary, so we know we're going to need employee. Location cities, we need that one. By position titles, looks like we're going to need all three. Close it out, move this over. Okay, next. Let's start by including each of the pieces of data that we're going to need. So average salary, let's bring that back in. We know we're going to need the average of salary, so let's go ahead and add the totals row and set it from group by to, average. And next we're going to need location city and position title. Location city, position title. Next we need to pull up the crosstab bar, or the crosstab option down here. So here's my crosstab button. Click, crosstab. So we can decide now which one do we want in the rows, which one do we want in the columns. Well, let's see. It doesn't really say, does it? So let's just arbitrarily choose here. Location city, let's put it in the rows. Position title, let's put it in the columns. But it says something else here. We want to, there it is, sort by city, then by title. Okay, so sort ascending, sort ascending. Okay, run. To create a crosstab query, you must specify one or more row headings options, one or more column headings options, and one value option. Okay, good. So do we have a row heading? Yep, we do. Do we have a column heading? Yep, we do. Value. We forgot to specify which one is going to go in the middle of this matrix we've just created. That would be salary. So right here, this is our value that goes in the middle. And so this is going to look kind of like what you'll learn in the next module in Excel about pivot tables in a way. Anyway, let's run it now. Here we go. For each city, we've got them listed once down the left. Each position title is listed once across the column headings. Then average salary listed here in the middle. So what do we quickly learn when looking at this? Okay, there are no regional managers in Atlanta. No trainees in Boston. Gives us a quick overview or a different view explaining and describing the salary by location and by position title. Okay, that's it for crosstab queries, totals, and calculated fields. This is everything you're going to see on the exam. So all you need to do now is practice. You might try simply stopping this video, deleting your database, and then looking at this in-class query exercise and trying them all again from scratch. You might try just running some various queries on your own. Think of a question you want to ask of the data, write a query for it, see if you can make it work. Anyway, bring your questions with you to class next time and we'll go over any examples that you need.